Be informed. Be guided. Be inspired. As Hector Macalalag Leadership Channel proudly presents review sessions for Principal Swain and DMT.
Isang mapagpalang araw sa inyong lahat. A blessed day to all of you. Welcome to another episode of National Qualifying Examination for School Heads or Principals Test Review 2021. Isa ito siguro sa pinakamataas kong record dahil mataas-taas din ang topic na ito. Ito ang pag-uusapan natin ngayon based on DepEd Memo number 133 series of 2016. This is about the National Inventory of Public Records. Ito po ang inyong lingkod, Hector Macalalag, PhD, CSC. The Assistant Schools Division Superintendent. Malaga ito dahil kailangan nating malaman bilang public officials kung ano ba ang mga dapat nating bantayan when we have that inventory of public records. At kailangan din nating malaman ang mga retention period o hanggang kailan lang pwede itago o i-dispose ang isang public records. Isa ito sa mga prevalent issues kasi mukhang natatambakan na tayo ng mga records sa ating office. O yung iba hindi guided. Bigla na lang tinatapon yung record na kung saan yung records na yun pala ay isang permanent record, hindi pwedeng i-dispose. Kaya sa DepEd order na ito, malalaman natin lahat ang mga different types of records at ang kanilang retention dates. Hanggang kailan lang sila pwedeng i-store bilang active at storage sa ating mga kanya-kanyang office. Unang-una, babasahin natin ang memorandum. Pursuant to the implementation of Republic Act 9470, otherwise known as the National Archives Act of 2007, and relative to DepEd Memo number 99, series of 2012, entitled Orientation Seminars on the Conduct of the National Inventory of Public Records, it is directed that the Central Office, Regional Offices, and the Schools Division Offices of the Department of Education must submit immediately the following requirements to the National Archives of the Philippines for the better coordination and for strengthening the systems of record keeping. So, noon itong 2016, inatasan. List of records, officers, or custodians in the CO, ROs, and SDOs with the respective complete address and contact details using the form Enclosure No.1. So, may enclosure tayo. 100% compliance or submission of property accomplished National Inventory Form detailed Enclosure No.2. The law mandated that the inventory of all record must be done in all agencies in order to establish a public access registry and to identify government employees who will be accountable or responsible for records management. Examine, identify, and making a list records of all government agencies in order to have a systematic and easy tracking of records. So take note, ang mga purposes niya ay kailangan magkaroon ng public access registry and kung sino yung mga accountable officers. And then kailangan din i-examine, identify, and make a list of records sa lahat ng government agencies para systematic and easy tracking of records, help in classifying and preserving records which are permanent and enduring values. Sinabi ko kanina, may mga records na permanent at enduring ang value. Ibig sabihin, hindi mo siya kailangang i-dispose. Diyan siya forever sa inyong office. So, kailangan i-classify at i-preserve yung mga records na yon. And then, depreciate the effects of disasters and for the preparation of a digitized records inventory. So ito yung tinatawag na resort na tayo sa pagiging digital. Plan a proposed retention period of records and to implement an approved records disposition schedule. And complete submission of all the requirements is essential because this will be the basis of NAP to include DepEd to be able to avail of those other priority projects. Digitalization of government records in preparation for the system-wide shift to electronic media as mandated and funded by the Department of Budget and Management. I think nandito na to ngayon kasi 2016 pa ito, di ba? Disaster preparedness and e-governance, may mga HRIS na mga systems, yung iba't ibang agencies, may mga DepEd offices na rin or division offices who are using this. And the guidelines in the submission of requirements are the following. So, yung the National Archives of the Philippines, siya talagang namamahala nito. So, hindi na natin isa-isahin yung mga submission requirements kasi nga ito ay nangyari pa noong 2016. What is important now is to be oriented on a different classification of documents that will be used. So, for item 4.b, requirement, complete inventory of all documents or records under the custody of all offices in the CO, ROs must be submitted. So, ito yung mga dapat nilang isubmit, no? For more information, all concerned may contact the Administrative Service Division, Department of Education, Central Office, Meralco Avenue, Pasig City at telephone numbers that are here to mention. Let us now start with Enclosure number 2. This is the National Archives of the Philippines, Pambansang Sinupan ng Pilipinas. Ito po yun ang equivalent ng Filipino name niya. National Records Inventory, NRI. At yung NAP, ang ibig sabihin ay National Archives of the Philippines. May mga number dito at may mga explanation nito isa-isa, no? Kung mag-a-apply tayo ng disposition of records, at lahat-lahat ng pwede nating i-apply, ito ang i-accomplish natin. The name of office, number 1. Department or division, number 2. The section or unit, number 3. Number 4 is telephone number. Number 5 is email address. Number 6 is address. Number 7, person in charge of files. Number 8, date prepared. Number 9, record series title and description. Number 10, period covered or inclusive dates. Number 11, volume. Number 12, records medium. Number 13, restrictions. Number 14, location of records. Number 15, time value. Number 16 is retention period. Number 17 is remarks. Then prepared by and approved by. Prepared by the name and position of the in charge and the chief of the department or division. Then sa baba is to be accomplished by the NAP, the National Archives of the Philippines. Ito yung mga procedural or instructional guides. The name of office, the office where the inventory is being undertaken, then the department or division, the department or the division of the office. Number 3 is the section or unit, the administrative or operating section unit of the office. Number 4 is the telephone number, and number 5 is the email address. These are the contact number of the person, employee in charge of files. And then email address must be official electronic mail of the office. Number 5 is the address. Indicate the specific address of the office, such as the floor number, building, street, city, municipality, and province. Person in charge of files, the person or employee having control or custody of the records and documents. Then, number 7 is date prepared, the date when the inventory of records has been or had been accomplished. And then, number 8, record series title and description. These are the entry of record series title shall be properly filled out if the record is substantive record or the record with archival value or one that could not be found in the general records disposition schedule. A brief description or definition of the records shall be noted in the remarks column. Example, for substantive record, batch control sheets are list of taxpayers. Include other records that may not be record series enumerated above. And then the number 9 is the record covered or the inclusive date. Indicate the period covered by the record series from the earliest to the latest year when the records are created. Received by the government agency, example 1990 to 2011. Then note the gaps. So ito yung gap ito yung range ng year from the earliest to the latest year. So yun yung example yan, 1990 to 2011. Then the volume, number 10. The mass of the records should be computed and expressed in cubic meters. The formula for volume in cubic meters is volume equals length times width times height in meters. In case the bulk of the records could be counted by sacks, bags, bundles, or whether the records are stored, then it should be indicated in the inventory. So, halimbawa, 2 cubic meters thus 50 bundles. So, yun yung description niya kung mag-count ka ng volume niya. So, kailangan talaga i-compute talaga ang volume when we apply for any classification of or any disposition or retention of records. So, talagang kailangan i-count yung volume niya, i-measure, and then i-identify kung ilang sacks or bags or bundles that is being used. And then the records medium. The medium of the records should be specified, whether the records are in paper format, microfilm, electronic, CD, DVD, maps, drawings, computer printout, or any forms. Example for national records, paper and microfilm. So, dapat naka-specify din yan. Number 12 is restriction. Records are to be classified as open access or restricted access records. If the government office has no guidelines pertaining to the restriction of its record holdings, all records of that office are considered open access. So, open access kung walang guidelines. Restricted records shall be classified as confidential, restricted, secret, and top secret. Example 2.1 files that is confidential. Then the location of records. The location of records should be specified with such designation as office area, off-site, or in NAP kung nandun na sa National Archives siya. Then the time value, number 14. Records shall be categorized as temporary or permanent records. So temporary records have a specific retention period and may be disposed of. Permanent records may not be disposed as this should be retained for safekeeping. And then the retention period is the time value of these records is temporary. The specific retention period should be indicated and checked against the GRDS, agency RDS, or against any other guidelines pertaining to the disposition of the specific record series. When the record's time value is permanent, there will be no limit to its retention period. If the records has no approved retention period, the records officer custodian shall make appropriate proposal to the NAP and approved by the supervisor about the suggested retention period. So itong retention period, i-discuss natin mamaya. And then remarks, state a brief description, explanation, history of the record series if not found in the agency. Ito yung NAP form number 2. So, nandito lahat yung mga description at yung retention period, whether inactive or in storage, and then the remarks. So, in number 1, kung mag-fill up tayo nito, the agency name, the address, the schedule number, the date prepared, item number, record series, title and description, and then the 7 is the retention period, and the 8 is remarks. So halimbawa itong acknowledgement letters and receipt, Ang remarks dito is to be filed with appropriate record series. Pangalawa, yung mga sports or athletics files such as athletes profile, letters or endorsements, results, and souvenir programs. The retention period of that is 1 year, active, and then 1 year lang siya, no? Or after graduated ng athletes. So, yun yung retention period ng active at saka storage value ng record na yan. Yung mga authorities to travel of all employees, officials, teachers, principals, assistant schools division superintendent, as well as schools division superintendent. 2 years lang po yan. So, sa nai-store sa office. Then, the awards and commendations, lahat yan permanent. Hindi mo pwedeng i-dispose lang yung lahat ng mga yan. Board council files, the memoranda, original letters, reports, and resolutions, that is permanent also. Hindi mo pwedeng i-dispose yan. Hindi mo pwedeng sunugin o ibaon sa lupa. Then the calamity records, that is 2 years. Then certificate of appearance, that is 1 year. And then certifications, yung mga CAB, certificate of graduation, diploma, Form 137 or special orders, employment and salary, enrollment, certificate of good moral character, that is 1 year. So, 1 year lang yan ang ano niya, na-store mo dyan sa office. Then charts, number 6 is charts, organizational functional process flow, that is permanent. And then yung mga clearances sa students, teachers, or employees, that is 1 year. Creation of district and division office records, that is permanent. So, as active at storage, permanent siya lahat. Sa committee files, mga investigation, mga task force, that is permanent. Then yung communications and correspondences, non-routine, that is to be filed with appropriate record series. So, nasa office yan palagi. Then, yung routinary communications, that is 2 years. Directives and issuances issued by the agency, documenting policies, procedures, standards, rules, and regulations, programs of the agency, that is permanent. Issued by the head of agency, reflecting routinary information, kung routinary siya, that is 2 years or after being superseded. Then, the directories of personnel or school officials, mga advisories, bulletins, and circulars, that is 2 years or after superseded. Ibig sabihin kung superseded, may changes sa mga directories. Then, inquiries, non-routinary, and both routinary, that is to be filed with appropriate record series acted upon. And then the list, monuments, shrines, no, mga list nan, that is 1 year or after updated. Mga manuals, that is permanent. Hindi mo pwedeng i-dispose yan. Kasi kahit luma na, magiging reference yan. The meeting files, the MANCOM and EXICOM files, the committee reports, minutes of meeting, the policies, the resolutions, and other related documents, that is permanent. Then the messages or speeches, that is permanent. Then programs, projects, including background materials, studies, analysis, notes, rough drafts, interim reports, and other related papers to management programs or projects, that is permanent. Implemented otherwise, disposed after 5 years from the date of the record, kung nag-implemented yan. And then, for publications that is created by DepEd, that is advertisements, advisories, books, journals, newsletters, press releases, that is permanent. So, that is found in the record set. And then, the seminar, workshop, convention, or invitation, that is 1 year. Solicitations, that is 1 year also. The specimen signature, that is permanent. So, hindi siya pwedeng itapon. Then travel or visit files, both foreign and local, that is 1 year. For the general services, fuel consumption reports, that is 1 year lahat. Job orders, that is 1 year. Statement of accounts or bills, halimbawa from the past, PLDT, electric or water, that is 5 years. The trip ticket is 1 year. Utilities and services records, that is 1 year. Vehicle insurance and registration, that is 1 year provided it was renewed. And then vehicle maintenance and operation records, that is 1 year. Let us proceed with procurement service and supply, property records. We have the acknowledgement receipts of equipment, memorandum receipts of equipment, and then semi-expandable and non-expandable properties, that is 1 year after the equipment had been returned. And then annual procurement programs, that is 3 years. Kasi 3 years naman talaga yung duration niya. And then inventory and inspection reports of unserviceable properties, that is 1 year or after the property has been returned. And then inventory of supplies and properties and fixtures, that is 1 year after being updated. Then the ledger cards, that is 2 years after the equipment has been disposed. Then the supplies, that is 5 years. And then the procurement files, that is 5 years, provided project is completed and settled. Ano yung mga procurement files? Mga abstract, okay? Ito yung sa mga back item, no? Sa mga bids and awards committee. Mga abstracts, mga bids, canvases, evaluations or quotations, bid evaluation, contracts, invitation to bid, minutes of pre-bid conference, modes of procurement, yung mga resolution, notices of award, notices to proceed, sa back talaga lahat yan, program of works, pre-bid bulletin, resolution to award, back resolution, alternative modes of procurement, award shopping and other modes of procurement and other pertinent documents. And then property inventories, that is 1 year or after it is being updated. Yung purchase order natin na ginagamit sa procurement, that is 4 years ang kanyang retention period. The purchase request, that is 1 year. Then reports sa loss, that is permanent. Sa waste materials, that is 2 years. And then inspection acceptance, that is 1 year. And then requisition and issue slips, that is 1 year. Provided after the property had been returned. And then transfers without cost, that is finance management, that is permanent. Like yung mga certification, last payment, lost check. So, permanent ang yung mga yan. So, yung mga checks ay 1 year. Yung automated payroll deduction scheme, yung mga expenses, capital. Yung capital outlay is 5 years. Then, personal services, maintenance and other operating services, provident, realignment, trust fund, 5 years yang lahat sila. No? So, take note of that. And then the financial statements, the balance sheet and statement operations and income, that is permanent. The notices of cash allocations, that is 3 years. And then payroll or payroll sheets, that is 5 years sa active and 5 years storage. A total of 10 years. Yung mga payroll, no? 10 years lahat. Active file siya for 5 years, then storage siya for 5 years, that is 10 years. Provided post-audited, finally settled, and not involved in any case. Under normal circumstances. Then remittances, sa GSIS, sa Pag-ibig, sa PhilHealth, that is 5 years. Pero yung mga list niya ay permanent. Sa reports, sa financial, that is 5 years. Sa list of due and demandable accounts, that is 3 years. And then sa liquidation, that is 5 years active, 5 years storage, equal to 10 years. Then the taxes, iba't iba ito. Ad valorem or duty, that is 3 years active, 3 years storage, a total of 6 years. Exemption, that is 3 years. Expanded value added tax, that is 3 years. Income, that is 3 years. Storage at 3 years active and 3 years storage, a total of 6 years. Withholding tax certificates, that is 4 years or after being superseded. Then for the vouchers, including bills, invoices, and other supporting documents, that is 5 years. Active file, 5 years storage, that is 10 years. Or provided post-audited, finally settled, and not involved in any case. Then for accounting records, authorities for allowances, that is 2 years after being terminated. No? So that includes clothing, COLA, hardship, rata, and other allowances. Ang records niyan ay 2 years. Books of financial entries, that is permanent. And then books of original entries, that is permanent. Consolidated annual audit reports, that is permanent. Hindi mo pwedeng itapon-tapon yan. Notices of transfer allocations, that is 1 year. Then quarterly statement of cash advances, that is 5 years active, 5 years storage, a total of 10 years. Then the trial balances and other reports, the cumulative results of operations unappropriated, that is permanent. Then monthly, quarterly trial balances, sa mga accounting terms ito, that is 2 years after consolidated in the annual financial report. So hindi mo siya pwedeng i-dispose kung hindi siya na-consolidate. Preliminary final annual trial balance accountant's copy, that is 5 years active, 5 years storage, a total of 10 years after annual financial report had been published. Auditor's copy, that is permanent lahat. And then the regional office copy, that is 5 years active, 5 years storage, a total of 10 years or after the annual financial report had been published. And then the pre-post closing trial balances, that is 5 years. So for the budget records, we have the agency budget matrices, that is 3 years. Budget circulars and issuances, 5 years active and 5 years storage, so a total of 10 years. Budget proposal and supporting documents, that is 3 years. General Appropriations Act, that is 3 years. And monthly cash programs, that is 3 years. Obligation request, that is 3 years. Physical and financial plan, 3 years. Program of expenditures, whether local or national, that is 5 years active, 5 years storage, a total of 10 years. And then registry of allotment, that is 5 years. A special allotment release order or SARO, that is 3 years. Sub-ARO is 3 years also. Fidelity bonds, that is 1 year after being renewed. Official cash books of collections and disbursement, that is permanent. Official receipts, that is 5 year storage and 5 year active, a total of 10 years or after being post-audited, finally settled, and not involved in any case. Record books for checks releases, that is 5 years. Active, 5 years storage, a total of 10 years. Reports, so advices of issued and cancelled, checks, no? Cash check disbursement, cash issued and cancelled, mga collections, summary of checks released and cancelled, professional vacation pay, that is 5 years active and 5 years storage, a total of 10 years. So sa health and nutrition report, the annual health and nutrition report, and that is permanent. And then the monthly and quarterly report, that is 2 years. And the list of health and nutrition personnel, distribution of medicine and supplies, that is 1 year or after being updated. Magna Carta for public health workers, that is permanent. And then medical dental records of personnel and athletes. Then the medical dental cards, that is permanent. The health profiles, that is permanent. The laboratory results, that is 2 years. Schedule of nurses and dentists, that is 1 year after being updated. Special projects and programs, that is permanent, no? Sa dental health programs, medical and nursing health programs, and then the nutrition programs. If implemented otherwise, dispose after 5 years from the date of records. That's the remarks. Then the human resource management services, annual summary reports for replacement programs for non-eligible, that is 5 years. So, noon una ito, mga marami ito. Meron din ito sa senior high natin ngayon. Application and recommendation for employment, that is 1 year. Application for leave of absences of all the leave privileges, that is 1 year. After being recorded in the leave cards. Then, ito yung mga different leaves, no? And then, authorities to fill vacant positions, that is 2 years. Provided the position has been filled up. Claims on employees' compensation, that is 5 years active. 5 years storage, that is a total of 10 years. Certificate of eligibles, that is 2 years. Contract to teach, that is 5 years after the renewal or termination and noted in service cards. Daily time record or DTR, that is 1 year after the data had been posted in leave cards and post-audited. Equivalent record forms with transmittals, that is 5 years, provided after separated from office. Job order contracts, 1 year after the end of the contract or being terminated. The leave cards, 5 years active, 10 years storage, a total of 15 years, or after the separation or retirement of the concerned employee. Letters of introduction, 2 years. Medical certificates due to illness, 3 years after advances had been recorded in leave cards. So mag-count ka na ng 3 years. Membership files, that is permanent. Monthly reports of services and attendance and abstract of absences, that is 2 years. New appraisal performance system, the RPMS, no? So, that is 1 year. And then the performance rating cards, that is 5 years. The performance target worksheet, that is 1 year. The notice of assignment, that is 1 year. And then permit to study, that is 1 year. Then the personal folders, yung 201 files, lahat-lahat ng yan, from appointment, the retirement, awards, the change of status, designation, the dropping from the rules, the first day or last day of service, longevity, NOSA, NOC, PDS, the out of office, PDF, the PRC license, as reports of rating, yung mga transfers, return to duty, mga clearances, separation, service records, and transcript of records, lahat-lahat ng 201 files ay active for 5 years and storage for 10 years, a total of 15 years, provided after retired na siya and separated. Personnel services itemization and plantilla. Ito yung plantilla. That is permanent. So other copies dispose after 3 years. Position item files, that is 2 years. Promotion records, that is 2 years after position has been filled. Publication of vacant position, that is 2 years. Records of service credits, that is 1 year after recording the level codes, no? The scholarship files, the on-the-job trainees, that is 2 years. The students, that is 1 year. The teachers, that is 4 years. Separation orders, extracts or retired or separated personnel, 1 year. The service cards, that is permanent. And the service record, that is 2 years. And the SALN, the statement of assets and liabilities, that is 5 years active, 5 years storage, that is a total of 10 years. Then for legal services, administrative decisions with respect to cases, opinions, decision, resolution orders, that is permanent. The cases, yung mga administrative, civil service, DepEd, ombudsman, civil or criminal, 4 years active, 3 years storage, a total of 7 years, after finally settled except decisions which are permanent. Complaints or grievances, that is 5 years, after finally being settled. Contract of service, that is 5 years. Correction of name or birth date, that is permanent. The acquisition of books, teaching aids, and vehicles, or whether it is donations or sale, that is permanent. Memorandum of agreement or understanding, that is permanent. And then the physical facilities and school engineering services, assessment of schools, that is 5 years, educational facilities management 1 null, that is permanent. Inventory of school buildings and fixtures, that is 1 year or after being superseded. So, ito yun, no? 1 year lang siya, no? Then, summary of estimated cost of rehabilitation, that is 5 years. Basic Education Information Services, the Government Info System-Based School Profiling System Projects, that is permanent. Request for demolition and replacement of school buildings, that is permanent. Hindi mo pwedeng i-dispose yan. So, yung request ng mga demolition and replacement of school buildings. School buildings, furnitures, plans, and specifications, that is permanent. And then, school building programs, that is 5 years. And then, yung site ownership, except for site ownership and site development plans, yan ay permanent. Then, surveys of water, electricity, facility, assessment programs, that is permanent. Then, basic information system, IMIS, that is permanent. So, iba't ibang module yan hanggang module 8. And then, the development plan, whether it is action or strategic, that is permanent. Performance indicators, lahat ng performance indicators ng isang paaralan, 5 years active, 5 years storage, a total of 10 years. So, hindi true yung 3 years back lang. So, 10 years ang storage niya. At provided naka-record na yan and summarized, no? Performance measure frameworks by regions and by quarters, that is 3 years. And then the profile, the government secondary school profiles, and then the private school, that is permanent. Request for item positions, that is 2 years. And then accomplishment reports, that is permanent. Except for quarterly, monthly, or weekly report, that is 1 year. After being consolidated in the annual report. Annual audit report, that is permanent. And supervisory, that is 1 year. And deployment, that is 3 years. Management on action and audit fundings, that is permanent. Statistical summaries, that is permanent. Permanent siya lahat. Accreditation and equivalency. Equivalency po ito. Hindi lang na ano ng spelling. Yung sa ALS, no? That is permanent. Mga use answer sheets, that is 6 months. Provided results had been tabulated and kept permanently. Yung mga unused ay 6 months din. Administrative-based data, MIS, that is permanent. Annual action plans, that is permanent. Capability building profiles, that is permanent. The project files, that is permanent. Test booklets, that is 6 months. Retain at least 2 sets provided the original is kept permanently in the diskette or CD. So, dapat naka-keep siya. Promotional division, the elementary and secondary division. Ito pang tawag noon, yung wala pang CID as SGOD. Kasi nasa manual ito ng operations, no? Achievement test result, that is permanent. Galing sa division hanggang sa national. So, permanent siya lahat. Book files, that is 5 years. Yung mga certifications, good moral character, that is 1 year. Change of name of schools, that is permanent. Clustering or declustering of schools, document, that is 3 years. Contest and competition, that is 2 years. Establishment, separation, and integration of schools, that is permanent. And then the government recognitions for private schools, that is permanent. Instructional materials, those are permanent. Retain 2 copies permanently in hard and soft copy. Other copies disposed 2 years after being revised. The National Career Assessment Examination Result, or NCAE, wrong yung spelling ng career, that is permanent. And then Philippine Validating Examination by NTRC, Beya na ngayon, that is permanent. Yung PEPT, no? Permits, 2 years. Promotional reports for elementary and secondary, yung mga promotional reports nila ay permanent. Hindi mo pwedeng ano yan, yung mga promotional reports ng mga bata, hindi mo pwedeng itapon. Request or approval, that is 1 year. Special programs and projects implemented, that is permanent. For not implemented, that is 1 year. Special order for graduation, usually this is for private schools, that is permanent. Scholarship grants, that is permanent. Summaries of units taken by students of private secondary school, that is 2 years. Tuition fee increase records, that is 3 years. And then action development plans, that is permanent. Admission test, that is 3 years. Application for different application, 2 years. And then attendance sheets or attendance reports, 2 years. Basic school management course team papers, 3 years. Bulletin of information, that is permanent. Calendar of activities, that is 1 year. Cases, feasibility studies, researches, that is permanent. Yung mga records, anecdotal records, that is 5 years. Class records, class cards or yung mga cards nila, Form 138, that is permanent. Class observation, permanent, as well as the reports for 178. The class schedules, Form 30, that is 1 year. The class values chart, 1 year. Diplomas, permanent. List of honors or graduates, permanent. Nutritional status of graduates, that is permanent. A list of honors or graduates, that is permanent. Nutritional status of pupils, that is 2 years. Report cards, that is permanent. Student permanent records or Form 137, that is permanent. Kailangan nandyan sa school lahat yan, ng Form 137, hindi mo pwedeng i-dispose yan. Summary of units taken, that is permanent. Class and teachers program, permanent lahat yan, 29, 30, 31 na mga forms. Then, consolidated data of teaching and non-teaching personnel, 5 years. Then, courses of study or syllabi, that is permanent. Enrollment slips, that is 1 year. Grading sheet is 2 years. Lesson plan is 1 year. The different list of accredited courses and subjects, that is permanent. Candidates for graduation, permanent. Enrollment list, 2 years. Graduates or honor graduates, that is permanent. School personnel and official, that is 1 year after being superseded. The library files, accession books, that is permanent. Book cards, that is permanent. Borrower's card, that is 1 year. Catalog cards, that is permanent. Permits, government permits, that is permanent. Government recognitions, permanent. Permit to operate, that is 5 years or after being expired. The permit to study, that is 2 years after graduated. Tuition fee increases, 5 years. Then, for profile of schools, that is permanent. Socioeconomic of pupils, that is 5 years after graduated. Students, 5 years after graduated. Teachers, 5 years active. 10 years storage, a total of 15 years after separated or being retired. Proposed organization of classes, that is permanent if implemented. Otherwise, disposed after 3 years. So, ranking list of honor students, that is 3 years or after being graduated. And then, ranking of teacher applicants, 1 year after being updated. Records of students' disciplinary action, 2 years after being graduated. Yung mga reports, yung annual reports, that is permanent. Enrollment and attendance forms, the administrators and principals, that is 2 years. Monthly enrollment, to form different forms, no? Na-change na itong mga form na ito kasi school form na ngayon. So, hindi na ito yung mga names niya. So, 2 years. Narrative report of department head, 2 years. Number of schools or students promotion, that is 2 years. Performance indicators, yearly report, that is permanent. Physical inventory report, that is 2 years. The reports of promotion, that is permanent. School fund or financial status, that is 5 years. Summary of monthly attendance, that is 7 years. Supervisory, that is 2 years. Request, yung mga different requests about additional courses. Carry overload, that is 2 years. And then inclusion in enrollment list, summer classes, and transfer. Yung school calendar ay 1 year. Yung school register, sa SF na ito ngayon, that is permanent. Student test paper or class examinations, that is 1 year. Supervisory plan for teachers, that is 1 year. Teacher schedule for Form 29, that is 1 year. Test results, Form 29, that is 2 years after consolidation. The testing materials, that is permanent. And the yearbooks and annual books, those are permanent. So, lahat ng yan ay i-prepared ng TWG coordinator and senior records management analyst, and then recommending approval sa kanila na yan, and then approved by the DepEd secretary. And the last portion is to be accomplished by the National Archives of the Philippines. So natandaan ba ninyo ang lahat ng mga records na nandun? I hope so, because as school leaders, as soon-to-be school principals or present school principals, kailangan talaga alam na alam natin kung ano yung mga records na nandun sa atin. Baka i-dispose na natin na permanent pala yon ang kanyang retention period, or baka pwede na pala siyang i-dispose. Nandun lang palagi sa office mo, naka-occupy siya ng space. So sayang naman, may mga space pa sanang available for other records which are permanent in nature. Maraming salamat po sa inyong panonood. Watch out for more episodes from Hector Macalalag Leadership Channel. At sana marami kayong natutunan sa ating encounter sa episode na ito about the inventory of records. I hope that you learn a lot from this. Thank you very much for watching. Sana do not skip the ads. Again, thank you very much and may God bless you.